being an introvert, I would assume that your very first sales or your very first prospectings were probably not as successful. And I feel like there was a lot of adjustments to make. Matter of fact, I feel like there's even a story of you where you had to actually go door to door many times to kind of break the ice, learn the trick of the trade. And I'd kind of want to go back to those early beginnings, because if I'm an introvert and I'm inspired right now, I'd also want to make sure that I'm very aware of what's the reality that might be on this road at the beginning steps.
Yeah, absolutely. And truthfully, it's not that pretty. And I shouldn't be the one that I was actually teaching sales, funnily enough. I mean, I shouldn't have been in sales at all. And I mean, that's why I'm so passionate about this. I mean, I actually founded National Introverts Week in America purely because I feel like more people need to out themselves as introverts so that we're not all feeling like second-class citizens. Because, I mean, a lot of people feel like their aspirational goal is to become extroverted, and that to me is ridiculous. And I am angry that I had to find this out the hard way, that we introverts can excel. And that's why I'm trying to do my best to fix this. Because when I was in late high school, as I said, I had a reading speed of a sixth grader. I was super introverted, had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. And luckily enough, I got diagnosed with this thing called Irlen syndrome in late high school. And basically what that means is I put on a funny pair of colored lenses, which didn't exactly help me with my confidence, and I could learn to read. Not like everyone else, but I could start the process of learning to read. And it was 2 years of hustle to catch up. And I actually got into the top 20% of my state. And remember, I was miles behind before that. But my family could see that I was exhausted. And because I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, my family all agreed that there was no way that I was going to stick it out in university unless I knew what I wanted to do. So I took a job at a real estate agency. And before you think I was the guy out selling, I wasn't. I was the guy in the back office doing data entry with a look on my face. Don't speak to me. I'm here to find myself. And it would have been 3 weeks into that job. And my boss pulls me aside and he's like, Matt, I am so sorry to tell you this. Like, we just got a phone call from head office. They're shutting down this premise. You're out of work. I mean, I'd worked there 3 weeks. Now, this is in Australia at Christmas time. Like, I live in the US now. It's, no one's going on big holidays around Christmas time here. But in Australia, it's summer at Christmas time. So we're going off on the 15th of December and we don't come back till the 15th or 20th of January. So, I mean, think about it. Like, for the average person that owns a business that's listening to this, how many people are you hiring, especially if your spouse has been telling you, this is the one time you've got to look after your family, like you've been focused on work all year. Like, you're not hiring anyone. The only jobs that were in the paper there were actually only 3, and they all had these words, commission-only sales, in the title. And for someone like me, I mean, I actually even had really bad acne back then, and I always used to, I struggled to talk to my own friends because I always thought that I didn't want to be the center of attention because of that. To apply for these jobs was terrifying, but not as terrifying as telling my father, who broke his back 80 hours a week to support the family, who I'd promised that I was going to pay my own way that year, that I was out of work. So I applied for all 3 jobs. And I got 3 job interviews, and that surprised me. And then I got 3 job offers, and I'm like, wow, maybe they see something in me that I don't see in myself. So I took a job doing business-to-business telecommunications sales. And I remember going into the first day of training with this little bit of quiet confidence. Like, for me, I feel that, I mean, if all 3 of them hired me, like, they must see something. Well, my trainer put that to bed really quickly. He's like, Matt, we just hire everyone. This is commission-only sales. We just have this saying, we throw mud up against the wall, we see what sticks. I mean, fun saying, and yeah, it's hilarious, right? Until you realize you're the mud. So the thing for me was and this kills me to this day because I can't believe that people did this back then. I got given 5 days product training and not a single second of sales training. And then I get thrown on this road. It's called Sydney Road in Melbourne, Australia. It's like hundreds and hundreds of doors on each side. And I just get told to go sell, which sounds great until you realize no one's actually told you what to say. So I take a deep breath. I walk into the first door, and I was actually very lucky because I was politely told to leave. And I say very lucky because the next door I went into, I got sworn at. Then I got told to get a real job, which was always my favorite, right? Because, I mean, this was the only job I could get. And door after door, that just kept happening until I got to my 93rd door, where I made about $70. And I mean, that was a lot of money to me back then. I mean, I had a part-time job throughout school where I was earning like $200 a week at McDonald's, right? Like, this was actually pretty decent money. But I remember being ecstatic for about 45 seconds and then having this really horrible realization. I got to do this again tomorrow and the next day and the next. And for me, I mean, this wasn't okay, but I couldn't go home and quit again. My father would have killed me. So I was like, all right, I'm not going home and saying I'm out of work, but I'm not willing to accept the way it is. So I thought to myself, and this is what I mean about the stories you tell yourself. Like I could have told myself, sales is a skill that only extroverts can learn. I just have to rely on lady luck, which could have been 200 doors the next day. And I'm like, no, thank you. So what I decided to was that sales was a system. It had to be a system like anything else. Otherwise, my year was going to be horrific. So I went to work learning that system. And I was like, well, how am I going to do that? Well, picking up a Brian Tracy or a Zig Ziglar book would have taken me a year to read it, let alone apply it. So luckily enough, YouTube was just becoming a thing in Australia back then. And I literally typed in the word sales system like this was an original idea. And it wasn't. All these videos came up. And I remember spending about 8 hours a day perfecting the step that I was on or learning the next step in the process. And then I would go out the next day and spend 8 hours selling. Weekends, I'd spend 16 hours practicing. And I know this isn't sounding fun to anyone listening, and it wasn't. I wouldn't wish it on anyone. And there are smarter ways to do this now. I just didn't know them. But I got better really quickly. Soon it was 71 doors, then it was 46 doors, then it was 28, then it was 19, then it was 8, then it was 3. I got it down to making a sale on average every 3 doors. And I still remember this actually. It was about 6 weeks in, my manager pulls me aside again, and he had that weird puzzled look on his face, like the person that just fired me recently. And I mean, I didn't think that I had a relationship with anyone. I mean, I handed my paperwork in downstairs, didn't talk to the boisterous sales reps upstairs talking about how they locked in that deal or how the market's getting harder. And he looks at me and he's like, Matt, we're kind of blown away by this, but we just got our national sales figures. And it turns out you're the number one salesperson in the company. And I mean, this was the largest sales and marketing company in the Southern Hemisphere at the time. And so this still blows me away. So he looks at me and goes, Matt, you can sell. You can manage. I don't know why people think that. Like, why would anyone, just because they have sales skills, mean they have leadership skills? I'm like, I don't know nothing. I don't know anything about leadership. And he's like, don't worry, we'll give you 20 people. Just mud up against the wall, see if anyone sticks. Well, within 24 hours, my entire team quit. Well, I went back to YouTube, learned how to manage. And funnily enough, that's a system that you can learn as well. So I got really good at it. As a matter of fact, I got promoted about 7 times and in the space of 12 months. And then I started up my own business. And yeah, I mean, long story short, that's how I ended up, responsible for 5 multi-million-dollar success stories. It was spinning out of that into my first business, which was in telecommunications, and then now in everything, including national accredited education. So for the people that are listening, like, I didn't exactly strike it lucky. As a matter of fact, if it wasn't for happenstance, I would never be the person I am today. And gosh, I would never have given up the life that I have today. But as the person doing data entry, I would never have assumed that this life was even possible for me. So I needed to be in a position. That's why I hope that these podcasts help. I need to be in a position to know that I can. And once I'm in a position that I know that I can, then I can choose. Do I want to do data entry? Maybe I love data entry. Maybe I don't. And for me, I didn't love it. As a matter of fact, I didn't even particularly like it, but I probably would have been doing it to this day if somebody didn't tell me that as an introvert, these opportunities are afforded to me, or losing my job, which was what I was lucky enough to have happen to me.
Thank you so much for listening to the Selling with Love podcast. We have some previous episodes you can tune into right here. And if you prefer the short form content where you get to the point in under 10 minutes, we do have a ton of clips from our best episodes that are being shared on this channel as well. So pick which one supports you the most. And of course, thank you for liking, subscribing, and of course, selling with love.